You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
That stadium is going to be rocking, and heaven help whoever walks in there to play us.
Sustained effort and violence, you play your ass off.
You're watching the Pirate Preview on The Sports Objective. Join us every Tuesday night on YouTube Live as we're joined by beat writers and other media members. We take a look at what lies ahead for the Pirates. Now, here are the guys.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Welcome into the Pirate Preview right here on The Sports Objective. I'm Dave Richmond. Glad to have you here live on a Tuesday night on Facebook Live and, of course, on our YouTube channel. By the way, like our Facebook page, and we have a lot of subscribers now, gained a lot over the last month. So thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's because of Kyle from LaGrange Barber. How are you, sir?
What's going on, Dave? I was just sitting here pondering in my head doing Boogie Woogie Man's Handsome Jimmy gimmick from Memphis on my introduction, but I'm going to save that for a win. I don't know why that went through my head, but anyway, what's going on, fellas? We see here on a Tuesday night, game week, homecoming, Memphis Tigers coming to town. Big football game, in my opinion. This is the most important game, arguably so far, of the Mike Houston era.
No doubt about it. In fact, I know Bubba Rosenbaum. We have a little bit of the Mike Houston press conference earlier today, and later on we'll have it on our YouTube channel. And Bubba, I know that this is kind of one thing I will say to all you guys. It's been a touchy. Bubba, are you there? I guess we'll get it.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I got you. I was just going to say one thing I've noticed about Mike Houston is that it's been a really touchy feeling right now, a touchy time. Coaching staff obviously not happy being 3-3 on the season, and rightfully so. They could easily be 5-1 at the very least. So we'll have that press conference, a little bit of that in just a little while, right?
Yeah, we'll have the first 5.5 to 6 minutes of that. It was about 14 or so minutes in its entirety, and you can find that, as you mentioned, on our YouTube channel, as well as on the comments of Holton Ahlers, Jaira Wilson, and Jack Powers. And obviously, Jaira and Jack from the defensive side of the ball, providing that perspective on this Memphis offense, as well as taking maybe a brief look back at the Tulane game. But like Kyle said, this is an absolutely huge game this weekend. Pirates 3-3, and going into the second half of the season, some very challenging games ahead. But if we play the way we can win any of them, or we can obviously lose any of them. I was thinking back, obviously a few different years come to mind, but one that immediately came to mind was 1995, when very high expectations coming off a bowl the previous season, and looking to get back to the Liberty Bowl that year. And Pirates started off 3-3, some highs, some lows, and then they ran the table, winning their last 6. So hopefully we'll play the way we can play on this second half of the season, starting on Saturday night against Memphis.
No doubt about it. As we bring in Matt Semenza, I did not know. I'm a huge fan of yours, Matt, personally, but I didn't know that you were related to Laurel and Hardy. I see that in the background there. I didn't know you were related to them.
Oh yeah, man. I have a diverse movie
Dan Laurel and Oliver Hardy
following. Yeah, I got a little bit of everything in this room here. But you see the Laurel and Hardy. But what's up, guys? Looking forward to this game. I agree with everything you guys have said. I think I expect this game to be an absolute bloodbath. I think I expect the Pirates to be physical, really dialed into this game mentally, and like you guys have said, this is one we have to get at home for a lot of reasons. To get, number one, to get back on the winning track, but also it's kind of the tipping point. If you drop this one at home, you look at the schedule ahead, and it's going to be very tough. So I really feel like this is a huge game that we have to get in Greenville, considering everything ahead of us. You have UCF, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. It's a tough schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, Kyle, I was going to say, what is our intentions? What are our intentions? Because when you're intentional, then you can really make things happen. And where's our focus? I think there's a lack of focus we've had. Not in preparation, not in practices, none of that. But I'm talking about when the chips are down, when it really matters. When you're talking about special teams, when we're talking about obviously the formation focus. You got to focus every single play. And Matt, Kyle, and Bubba, you know how many coaches say all that time, they're screaming, you can't take a play off. That one play that you take off the busted coverage, that's the difference. Right now, guys, I was telling you guys right before, and Kyle, I'm going to pitch this to you because you know where I'm going with this. This league right now, we are not making any excuses for Mike Houston. He's a grown man. We love him. We're not making excuses for him. But one thing I will say about this league, you cannot afford to take your eyes off the ball, your eyes off the prize, as they say, because that's the difference in winning and losing. Kyle, I don't understand this fan base. This fan base is driving me nuts, and I'll tell you why. We were at the bottom of the barrel. We're fighting our way up now where the league is 50-50. Some weeks we're going to win, some weeks we're going to lose. There's some weeks we probably shouldn't win, and we pull off, we steal some of these games. But that's what I'm saying. That's why the intensity has to be there, why we have to be intentional, why we can't take our eyes off the ball, and we have to be focused, don't you think?
Yeah, you mentioned the fan base. I think a lot of the problem with the fan base is you had a 7-win season last year, and then you play like you did against NC State. And I think a lot of people had visions of playing for a conference championship dancing in their head, and we've underperformed. And that's reason to me for frustration. But that's, as I said Sunday night, what I don't understand about the fan base, and completely understand the frustration and the criticism. But what I don't understand about the fan base is the negativity. It's a big difference between being critical and being negative. The talent's there. I believe in the majority of the coaching staff. So we can get it fixed. And this Memphis game Saturday night, we were talking about it pre-show. We're up to a 5-point favorite, which that line doesn't make any sense to me. I think the line's a bit big, but I've always been told when a line doesn't make any sense, don't touch it because we're probably gonna cover. So the fact that we're a 5-point favorite in a game against a 4-2 football team that only lost to Mississippi, Ole Miss, and Houston, and lost Houston by 1 point. The fact that we're a 5-point favorite and the line keeps going up doesn't make a lot of sense. So that tells me don't touch it, and it also tells me we're probably going to cover. So it's a very big game. I would advise the fans to be critical, but don't be negative. Come out there and support the team. Get loud. I think we can make a difference in this game, particularly on defense. Houston has a good offense. We're going to have to get after the quarterback, get pressure on him, and make plays, force some turnovers. And I think the crowd can make a difference Saturday night. I look for this going to be a bit of a shootout, but I think a couple of key defensive stops will make the difference in the game. But to your point about being deliberate, we need to be deliberate on everything we do. I mean, that goes without saying. And to me, this is a huge, huge football game.
Yeah, as far as huge football games, and before we dive into this year's matchup, just looking at this series very quickly, East Carolina leads it 16-8, going back to the first meeting way back in 1990. But from some of the win streaks in the series, from 06 to 12, the Pirates won 7 in a row, and then from 2000 to 2005, Memphis had won 4 out of 5, including 3 straight during the John Thompson era in the first year of Skip Holtz. But in 2018, well, actually going back to 2017, when it was really ugly at the Liberty Bowl, and then 2018 in Greenville when they beat us by a 59-41 score. That's one of the things that made last year so sweet, because you saw how far we had come in 4 seasons, going from having lost 70-13 to winning 30-29 in overtime to clinch that bowl bid.
Yeah, and that was a huge win last year, and I think this year it would. Obviously last year was to get to 6 wins, so it's hard to argue this year would be bigger. But in terms of a home win, if you take that SMU game off the board because nobody was there in 2020, this would be the biggest home win Mike Houston's had against the 4-2 Memphis. So I don't know. It's homecoming. I'm excited about this game, guys. And, knock on wood, hopefully, if nothing happens between now and then, I'll finally get to go to a game this year. Maybe the only one I go to. But me and some Mims is going to be there. So hopefully, anyway, if everything goes as planned, Matt. So maybe Bubba, are you going to be there? I know the other week you were going to the Outer Banks. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
With our powers combined.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
We need to get a picture. Make sure we get
heart. We got to have pregame shots.
Yeah, we got to get pictures. We got to get pictures together because the four of us are never together. So that would be. Yeah. I don't think the four of us have ever been together, right?
Did anybody just get that reference? I said, Earth, wind, water, heart. Who are we? Who are we with our powers combined?
Wait a second.
Bubba just dropped out. Bubba said, "To hell with that. I'm not even going to."
The four horsemen.
Captain Planet, guys. Captain Planet, come on.
Yeah.
You lost me on that one.
Screw y'all. Bubba, you remember Captain Planet?
Yes, but it's not something that I was really into or anything.
Well, no, me neither. But I'll tell you two things that used to irritate the crap out of me. Captain Planet and Atlanta Braves baseball, because they would both be on either right before or interrupt WCW Saturday Night Wrestling. Yes. So that's why I had to watch Captain Planet waiting for wrestling to go on.
I never watched Captain Planet to get ready for 6:05 or whenever that was coming on.
Well, I just had it on the TV waiting for WCW Saturday Night at 6:05.
Well, I'll tell you guys, looking at this game, just jumping back to the game for a second. One thing I really want to see Saturday night is I want to see.
Matt, why would you want to talk about the game when we can talk Captain Planet?
Captain Planet is more important, Matt. Come on.
I was looking for a segue, but it just wasn't coming, so I just jumped. No, but guys, I want to see this team play loose. I thought we looked very tight last week against Tulane. When you play tight, it leads to mistakes. I really want to see this team just come out, play physical, play fast, play loose. Hey, you're home. You're at home. It's 7:30 game. We should have a good crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see this team just go out and make plays. And I hope that the play calling, remains aggressive, remains open, and not, hopefully not predictable like we've seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I do think we play tight against Tulane. And I have a feeling we're going to play loose this weekend. I like the matchup a lot better. The Tulane, man, I said it Sunday night. What they do is just it's not super unique, but it's super irritating. And Memphis' defense, Holt Naylor's compared it to Old Dominion in terms of what they like to do. So we've seen it. Their defense is not horrible, but it's not great. They give up a lot of points. I agree with you 100%, Matt. We did play tight against Tulane, and we do need to come out and play loose.
Yeah, as far as a couple of those topics that Matt brought up, as far as the key plays, Mike Houston in his press conference today was talking about there were essentially a half dozen plays, that really swayed that game against Tulane, and we have to find a way to make those plays, or at least our share of them. And then also Coach Houston was asked as far as the offense and just the inability thus far to produce against the better defenses on our schedule, specifically Navy and Tulane, even more so than NC State, because NC State, we moved the football much better in that game on the whole, I'd say, than Tulane and Navy. But in those games, you had 21, 21-20 and 9 points. So he addressed those topics. And did you want to go ahead and go to those in Coach Houston's opening remarks?
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask you for that. Let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, just because they kind of set up the rest of the show as far as the discussion that we'll have on both sides of the ball. And so here are those opening comments from Mike Houston's Tuesday press conference talking about the Tulane game as well as looking ahead to Memphis.
How's everybody doing? Hello. All right.
Obviously disappointed in not being able to get the victory down in New Orleans this past weekend. Thought we faced a very good Tulane team. When you look back at the game, and I've watched it multiple times and watched it with both sides of the ball and special teams. You look at the things that we did well, and I thought we did start the game very well. Thought we played very well in the first quarter. I thought that as the game went on, there's half a dozen plays where Tulane made a play and we did not, one way or the other. And I thought those plays, combined with a couple of mistakes that we made that Tulane did not, ended up in them winning what was a highly contested game. And certainly congratulations to Coach Fritz and Tulane moving on to 5-1. They've got a good football team, just like we thought. And we've got to be better in all phases of the game, and got to improve from our performance last weekend. And the one thing I do know is we have a very motivated group. We have a motivated group of coaches. We have a motivated team. We had a good workout on Sunday evening. We've had productive, both players and coaches, things over the last day and a half since then. I expect us to have a really good practice this afternoon. I expect the Pirates to play well this coming Saturday. Excited to be back at home. Should be a great atmosphere, 7:30 kickoff, homecoming. You're going to have, a lot of people back here for Hall of Fame induction and Marcus Crandall going in. And just a lot of excitement around the game. And it's two really good football teams. Obviously, Memphis is coming off of a tough loss to Houston last Friday night. I was able to watch most of that game after we finished up our meetings. So, we've got two teams that are, really good teams that matched up this weekend. Should be a great game. We'll be ready to go. So, questions?
Coach, you guys are at a point where those handful of plays are going to dictate who wins a game, going forward. So how do you guys address it as a coaching staff? Do y'all overemphasize it or try not to put too much pressure on those plays? How do you address that when you sit down with your staff and the players?
Well, the one thing I know is, the kids, they want to be successful. And so I do think you address each situation. A lot of times it's things that they know. So you just try to coach up how to play the ball better, whether it's offensively or defensively, or you coach up a decision, no matter who it is making it, how we can better make that decision. We're always looking at how we can do things better as coaches. And at the end of the day, it's a game played in real time, and it's somebody's going to make the play, somebody's not. And so you just try to do the best job you can of addressing it, and I think you do. I think you very directly address it and try to coach it and try to improve on it.
Maybe when you talk about decision-making, that sort of answers it, but have you been able to put your finger on or diagnose maybe the disconnect of having a lot of talent on offense versus just having some struggles in some certain games?
Well, I think that the opponent and how they're defending you has a lot to do with it. And then I think rhythm and sync has a lot to do with it. Everybody being on the same page has a lot to do with it. For example, South Florida got up there and decided they wanted to play us press man on the line of scrimmage, and we were able to hit some deep balls on them, and we connected, and we won the 50-50 balls. This past weekend, Tulane defended us completely different. And, I think after probably the middle of the second quarter on, we just, we were able to drive the ball pretty well till you got down to around the 30-yard line, and we just did not make the plays that you have to make. You got to score points. And conversely, on the other side, we did give up a few plays to Tulane. And so I think that's where it goes into just we've got to improve our execution. We got to improve everybody being on the same page. Everybody in this conference has a lot of talent. Tulane had a lot of talent on defense. Tulane had a lot of talent on offense. Memphis this weekend, they've got a lot of talent on both sides. We all have a lot of talent. So it comes down to who can execute the best, who can play together the best. That's really the big one. The better team is going to win on game day. And so it's, striving to try to get a group of individuals to play together and be the best team on game day each Saturday.
All right, that's obviously Coach Houston from today. If you're watching live, Tuesday's press conference earlier this afternoon. And I tell you what, there's no question about it. You got to get things under control. But, Matt, you brought up a great point, something I thought about Sunday morning. And I just realized when you mentioned, I forgot TV game, there's certain games.
Dave's cutting out on my end.
Breaking out a little bit. Breaking up a little bit. But until Dave's able to rejoin us, taking a look at this matchup, guys, let's start on the offensive side of the ball, and that being the Memphis offense against the East Carolina defense, as Dave has now left the building momentarily here. So hopefully Dave will be able to rejoin us. But taking a look at this Memphis offense, they have a proven signal caller in Seth Hennigan. Last year against us, he had a solid game. Thus far this season, he's completing, nearly 64% of his passes. He's thrown it about 33 times per ball game, a little over 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, and just one pick. And he also has the ability to hurt you with his legs. I don't know that I would necessarily call him a dual threat, but when he needs to run, when things break down, or maybe occasionally a design run, he certainly has that potential.
Yeah, he's not a statue. He's Holt Naylor's like, not size-wise, but in terms of how he uses his mobility. We need to get pressure on him, and when we get pressure on him, we need to get him on the ground. That's going to be key, and that's where I think the fans can make a difference. Fans need to be loud and get behind this defense and help us get pressure on their quarterback, because they do have a good offense. They score points. They take advantage of red zone opportunities, and they have a hell of a kicker. Their kicker may be the best kicker in the league. So they'll get a little bit conservative with their play calling at times when they get down kind of in the red zone area, because they know their kicker is automatic points. So that's something we need to do. We need to hold them to kicking field goals. Then we need to answer that with touchdowns, because this ain't going to be a lot of fourth down going for it, because their kicker is so good, unless they're in a situation where they have to go for it on fourth down. So what we need to do is hold them to field goals in terms of their offense, because they're going to get their yards, and then we need to answer with touchdowns. And looks like Dave got his green screen going, or either he's at Dowdy-Ficklen and they put people in there.
No, I'm asking because I wanted to be live with Matt, so I feel like Matt's alone. So I found this the picture that Bubba. It's actually Bubba did this. So
is that a green screen, or you got a picture behind you? What is this? Is that a green screen?
The virtual effects. I have a green screen, but I haven't set it up yet.
Okay, so it's virtual effects. Okay, gotcha.
But
I'm already in the game, guys. Can't you tell? I'm waiting for you guys to show up.
Well, you're on the field, so I hope you take a nice hit in a minute.
Semenza just hit me.
But I talk about Hennigan in his running ability, and Coach Houston pointed that out in his press conference remarks. We know when you go and listen to them in their entirety, he's run for a little over 170 yards and a couple of touchdowns. And then their running backs, and they really spread it around. They have three guys that they use a significant amount: Brandon Thomas, and then also Ducker and Martin. And Thomas is a little bit of the bigger back, 5'10", 210 pounds. He has 7 touchdowns, leading the team in rushing touchdowns, and right around, I think, 4 yards per carry or just over. And then you have Ducker, 45 carries for 225 yards and a couple scores. And then Martin is their best receiving back, and he's also averaging nearly 6.5 yards per carry. So he's probably the most complete of the three backs that they use. And then their leading receiver is Gabriel Rogers. He's a guy who has 22 receptions for a little over 300 yards. And I know when I was going back and watching a little bit of the Houston game, parts that I missed live, he was able to, make some things happen as well in the run game via end arounds and reverses. So keep an eye on Gabe Rogers.
Yeah, they get the ball. They spread the ball around a lot. There's not just one player you got to watch out for. They're very generous with distributing the football. So they're very complete on offense. It's going to be a challenge for our defense, but I think our defense is up to the challenge.
And I talk about, sorry, very quickly, Matt, just one other thing I was going to point out as far as their passing game. I talked about Gabriel Rogers being their leading receiver as far as receptions and yardage, but Caden Prescorn, I believe that's how you Prescorn, a 6'5", 255-pound tight end who actually came to the program back in 2019 as a walk-on quarterback, and he was converted to a tight end, and he's done a heck of a job. 21 receptions for 220 yards and 6 touchdowns, so he leads them in receiving touchdowns. And I saw a catch and run that he made against Houston on an RPO out in the flat. He's really good, running with the football after the catch.
Yeah, and I would challenge Ryan Jones and Holt Nailers to find Ryan Jones this week. Ryan Jones should be putting up numbers like that. So to me, sometimes players need to be challenged by other players. So I would challenge Ryan Jones to get open, and I would challenge Holt Nailers to find him this week and outperform that kid.
I said this 2 years ago, guys, and I know, Kyle, you said it recently, but every time that guy touches the ball, he's probably the best athlete we have, one of the best on the team. So get that guy the ball and he makes things happen. And I really think that's huge for the game.
He's had a very disappointing year so far.
Yeah. I thought for sure that he would the numbers, but again, it also goes back to Holton, give him the ball, get him the ball. We need Holton to be, Matt used to say last year, we need Holton to be Holton. And I know earlier we had Jimmy, I think it was Jimmy. Yeah, Jimmy was talking about putting Mason in. Look, we need the way I see it like right now, guys, is we need to have a sense of urgency. We only have 6 games left. I was thinking about this morning when, certain teams they were talking about on the radio this morning, and I'm like going, you only have 12 football games, right? So in basketball, if you lose a couple, or baseball, like when we lost the Bryant series, remember the beginning of the year, everybody was like up in arms. Oh my God, the season's lost, and we go to a super regional. You lose 2 or 3 games back to back to back, it's over. It's more difficult, as we talked about. So there needs to be a sense of urgency. We're officially in the second half of the season coming up. Let's have a sense of urgency to really get this job done, because
I agree with you.
Think Dave locked up a little bit there. I mean, in terms of Mason, I feel like if we drop this game, which I don't even want to think about, but if we do drop this game, I definitely want to see more of Mason moving forward. But I think for this week, I don't think we're going to see Mason. One thing I would love to see a little bit in this offense, maybe in short yardage or red zone, is some direct snap type plays, maybe a direct snap to, Gunn or Keaton Mitchell, and you could do some creative things out of that. But I want to see some creativity this week where we can show some things that we haven't put on film yet this year, to confuse Memphis a little bit. But I would like to see some direct snap type stuff, and maybe a 3rd and 2 type situation, or maybe if we're down, inside the 5-yard line in a red zone.
What I'd like to see is some consistency with the play calling and us execute. That's the main thing I want to see, whether it's something different or not. How about we just execute what we run and don't make dumb boneheaded mistakes, and consistency with the play calling. If something's working, don't go away from it. I don't, and use things to set up other things. I don't see a lot of that at times in this offense this year. At times, the USF game first half was wonderful, but at times this offense doesn't seem to have a reason or rhyme to it. And I know it does, but I'd like to see this ran to set up this, XYZ. That's what I'd really like to see. Yeah, creativity is great, but how about let's execute and let's have some continuity to the offense.
Yeah, certainly. Hope Jalen Johnson will be back. It remains to be seen. Coach Houston was asked about that on his radio show, and he didn't say a whole lot other than he was still battling through the lower back pain, and that we hope to have him available on Saturday night. Because without him, you really look at it. I mean, it's C.J. Johnson and Zay Winstead, and then the two tight ends with Calhoun and Jones.
We can't do that again. We can't do that again this week. We cannot go out there and run that two tight end set the whole game like we did against Tulane. If we do that again this week, we're going to get beat. So you need to line up. You need to line up King, either the Duke transfer, and you need to put CJ in the slot.
Yeah, hey, let's put these guys on the field. Whatever happened to Taji Hudson? I remember
he stays banged up. Evidently, he's a very touchy, sensitive guy.
Well, I remember when he first got here, he came in as a quarterback, and he was converted to a wide receiver that first year. The coaching staff raved about him. I mean, It seemed like every day it was Taji Hudson. They were blown away by his athleticism.
Well, I doubt he's going to play a whole game, Matt, because he stays banged up. I mean, it would be nice if you could move CJ out wide, put him in the slot, but I just don't see that being an option. Maybe it is, and I just don't know. But if we don't have Jalen, I would prefer us to play CJ in the slot more. You can put him out wide, outside a little bit, but you got to play King or the Duke transfer whose name escapes me, or somebody. I guess King would be our best bet.
Jared Garner.
Jared Garner or King. You cannot do that two tight end set the whole game again. I think it would be more successful against Memphis than it was against Tulane, but you cannot do that the whole game.
Going back to what we're going to be seeing defensively, I think it was you, Kyle, referenced the similarities and the comparisons that Holt Nailors was making earlier on Tuesday as far as to Old Dominion. He said that Memphis has a very good defensive end, and they like to move him around a lot. And coverage-wise, a lot of two safety looks with a cover four. A lot of what they call cover six. Where there's a cover four look to the field, and then to the boundary, the short side of the field, there's a cover two look. Basically meaning that they have, two guys deep to the field, and then to the boundary that they have a corner that's playing the flat there, and then a deep safety. But and then they also have some man coverage. So hopefully, if they do give us those man coverage looks, that we can capitalize on that like we did against South Florida. And then I know they've been allowing 300 yards passing per game. We were talking about that pre-show before we went live.
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
As I said, they're definitely susceptible in their pass defense, and it's going to be interesting to see how they play us. I mean, right now, if you've watched East Carolina this year and you're a defensive coordinator, you're thinking to yourself, all right, the last thing I want to do is just line up and play press man. I would definitely try to, zone us up, because that seems to be where we struggle, as we saw last week. So I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more of that this week than where, maybe they've showed this year.
Maybe, but they don't play the zone the way Tulane plays the zone. It ain't the same animal. So they may do it, but they don't do it as well. So I would expect us to still be able to get the ball downfield in zone coverage. It does kind of take away a little bit of the big play, but I've seen them give up some big plays this year in that zone defense. So I look at the matchup on paper, and I do like it better than the Tulane matchup, but I do keep just scratching my head as to why we're 5-point favorites. But again, I go back to it. When I've always been told, You know, when a line doesn't make sense to you, don't touch it because they're probably going to
cover. Yeah, this matchup, I do believe we win this game, and we're going to go to 4-3, and we'll breathe a sigh of relief when it's all said and done. And I also say, fans, show up. If you're a real fan, show up on Saturday. If you're a season ticket holder, sometimes, hey, there's times we can't make the game. That's fine. We understand that. But we're talking about.
I made one this year.
Well, Saturday will be a great time, brother.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, and I really believe with the passing game of Ehlers, we got way too many guys. That's another reason why the fan base, I would say, is frustrated. We've got way too many weapons on offense. The defense is going to be fine. I think the defense will be fine on Saturday night. The question will be, will the offense step up to rise to the occasion? When you look at all the wide receivers we have, and I know we're banged up at running back, but Chuck asked about Marlon Gunn. Coach said he actually practiced on Sunday, and I think he practiced again today. Marlon Gunn is fine. You feel like Keaton will be okay.
What is Jalen Johnson's back injury, guys? Do we know?
No, they're not going to tell us they're not going to tell us if he's coming back.
Yeah, but do we know what it is? Is it another hip pointer? Is he having back spasms?
It said back. The only thing I've seen is
lower back
injury. Back tightness. I know it's all about. I'll tell you guys, I don't know if you've ever had a back injury to the low back, but it's debilitating. When you injure the low back, there's not much you can do.
Stretch, and stretch some more.
Yeah, I mean, you're just very limited. So hopefully it's nothing along the lines of like a bulging disc or herniation or anything like that, because that's the type of thing where, typically requires surgery.
Well, yeah.
Well, hopefully that's the thing is that we got to find a way on Saturday. Like I said, we got to find a way to get these weapons, and I think we have throw the deep ball. Coach was talking about the deep ball. So guess what? I think we're going to have opportunities again, and there seems to be all the games. A lot of the games. There's we're talking about Ryan Jones. Make some passes right there for him in the middle. I mean, there's passes that middle of the field seems to be open. You look at Winstead, CJ Johnson. We're not sure. We just talked about Jalen Johnson, but there's enough wide receivers, tight ends that we have that the running game. I don't know. To me, I'm hoping that we won't be stubborn and play conservative and try to run the clock, so much.
No, well, we're not going to be able to. It's not Tulane. Okay, Memphis is going to score. I do think our defense will do a nice job, but Memphis is going to score points, so you're going to have to answer them. So no, I expect us to be as aggressive as we need to be offensively. I would like to see. I'd like to see Holton come out and hopefully a better result. But y'all remember that Tulsa game in 2020? I'd like to see Holton come out and have a game like he did that night against Tulsa, just with the right result.
That was after the Navy game, right?
Correct. And I think, I don't know. I just got a good feeling about this Saturday. That's just solely based on nothing but a feeling. So
as far as running the football, that's something else. And since you brought up Holton as well, Holton was talking about, when talking about the Memphis defense, he said their defensive line is some pretty large humans on their defensive line. They are allowing just 110 yards per game on the ground, which ranks 25th nationally. Compared to the Pirates, 29th nationally, 114 yards per game. So, two very good run defenses. So, both teams have been susceptible to the pass, as we know. Specifically with the Pirates, and then just what the numbers have shown and what we've seen in some of the games we've been able to watch with Memphis. So,
I think we can run on them, guys. I really do. I don't think their run defense is as good as the numbers show.
I'm waiting, and I was going to say this. We had a question about what we talked about Marlon Gunn. I think Marlon Gunn's the kind of guy that can break one. Especially special teams. Guys, one of the things I want to mention, that run that he had, what was it about to the 40-yard line? You remember that?
Well, yeah. Gun's going to have to produce, but I'll tell you this: our star running back, Jesus Christ, help me out, guys.
Mitchell.
Keith Mitchell. He had some injuries. He did all right against Tulane, but Keaton hadn't had a big game in a few weeks. He hadn't broke one. So keep that in mind. You're not going to keep Keaton too many games in a row without breaking a big one. So keep that in mind for Saturday night.
And how about Fleming with them? What about Fleming as far as punt returns? He's one to look out for.
Certainly like to see more plays out of the special teams. I mean, he had that big punt return down in South Florida. But, I got to tell you, I think he's done a nice job back there. He's been very shorthanded. I don't want to jinx it, but very shorthanded. He's done a nice job on that punt return unit. But getting back to Keaton really quick, you could tell he wasn't quite right last weekend against Tulane because he will plant his feet, cut, and get north, as they say, north and south. He was running a lot more sideline to sideline. You could tell he was trying to avoid those big hits. He didn't look quite right to me. He's going to have another week now of, rehab to kind of get his body right, get that hip pointer back on track. So hopefully he's, in much better condition this week and ready to have a big game because we're going to need him. We're going to need him to pop, a few long runs to win this. I
don't know what Memphis's injury situation is, but I did hear Mike Houston, when he was asked about the running back room, he said, we're banged up, bumps and bruises. He said, but so is Memphis. So does anybody know? Is there a good injury report on Memphis? Is there perhaps some news that is being hidden based on the spread and Mike Houston's little comment there that we don't know? Is somebody key injured for Memphis that maybe we're not aware of?
I haven't heard anything, guys. I'm not sure.
I haven't heard anything. But
did you pick up on that comment, Bubba, today?
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me wonder, particularly with that line continually moving in our favor. It kind of makes me wonder, is there somebody injured that we don't realize for the Tigers?
I do know something that Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield, expressed some concern with, and something that he said that he and the staff and obviously the guys on the offensive side are trying to get corrected is you look at Memphis, 26 out of 27 in the red zone, but they've had to kick a lot of field goals in the red zone, just like we did against Memphis last year. So out of their 26 scores, 17 are touchdowns. So they having to settle for a lot of short field goals. That's a concern. So that's something to keep an eye on. And they do have a very solid kicking game. Chris Howard, their place kicker, 11 for 11, 21 out of 22 on PATs. And he's got a long of 47.
Yeah, and I pointed that out earlier in the show as we opened it, Bubba, that they will not go for it on fourth down a lot because their kicker is so reliable. So I'm hoping our defense is pretty good in the red zone. So it's not very good in the red zone. So I hope we hold them to a lot of field goals and we can go down and score touchdowns. If you can do that, you're going to win a football game. Yeah,
I was getting ready to say that very thing. That sounds familiar in recent times with that very thing with ECU. And in fact, guys, once we get down, as far as the defense is concerned for the Pirates, we also could see look how many goal line stances we have this year. And that's another thing. If they struggle, man, we get the ball back and we score.
Yeah, and that could be what Vegas is seeing, the fact that they struggle in the red zone to score touchdowns. They do kick a lot of field goals, and that could be what Vegas is seeing, Yeah,
and I'll tell you guys, conversely, you mentioned the kicker for Memphis. It's going to be really interesting to see how Mike Houston and Donnie call this game.
Don't kick a field goal.
When we get down inside the 40, I mean, I'll tell you guys, it's just one of those things. You have to call plays very differently when you don't have a reliable kicker, and I think it's gonna really change the way they call this game. I really hope that we don't just willingly settle for field goals.
I don't think we will.
And if we do, to your point, one of you guys mentioned this the other night, it might have been you, Kyle. If we're gonna go kick a field goal, put the damn ball in between the hashes, right in the middle of the field, and set it up. Because right now we have a kicker who's just not right mentally.
And that's something on the whole, I don't think we've done that this year as far as a willingness to settle for field goals. It's just a couple of situations like the end of the Navy game and the end of the NC State game where you really had a chance. You had some momentum, and it was almost, it seemed as though, from my perspective, that we were afraid of making a mistake instead of, capitalizing on the field position that we have and trying to put the ball in the end zone. Then, hey, I'm not saying doing anything extremely high risk, but you have a veteran quarterback, and
he hasn't proved he can perform in those situations this year, Bubba.
I think he can.
I think he can too, but he hasn't done it this year. He did it last year, but he hasn't done it this year. So he needs to prove that again too. I will caution this, and I would say yes. Don't try a 45-yarder, but I'll caution this, and I'll reference the Florida State NC State game. Florida State, very similar situation. They had it around the 18, 20, something like that, 25. It was where they could have got it to a short field goal line up the middle of the field, and they were aggressive and went for and threw to the end zone for a pick, and that's why NC State hung on and won. So I would caution that. What I would do in that situation, if we had a chance to kick a game winner, I would be somewhat aggressive, but I also would be setting it up in the middle of the field. So that way, when we do kick it, he's just got to go hit it. He doesn't have to think about it. In fact, close your eyes, Owen, and just go hit the ball.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. People always say about, earlier Jimmy Evans on YouTube said bench Owen. Okay, so you bench Owen. Who do you have behind Owen? And we're talking about Mason and playing Mason. That's fine and dandy, but the reality is the coaches are putting out the guys are putting out the best people they can put out.
I know that the guy who's supposed to be our best other kicker is injured. We have other kickers on the roster. I'd be perfectly willing to try one of them in the game. I don't care who's performing better at practice because Owen is not performing under the lights. So I have no problem with trying another kicker. Putting in Mason Garcia, I would ask Jimmy or was that his name, Jimmy? I would ask Jimmy, yeah. What in the hell has Mason Garcia showed that makes you think he can outperform Holton Ahlers? Not a damn thing. Nothing. And I'm not putting down Mason.
Right.
What has he shown? Nothing. When I see Mason Garcia out there, I see a hell of an athlete that don't know how to make reads. He cannot make reads yet, and hopefully he'll get there. But I haven't seen the ability. Quite honestly, he hasn't been given much opportunity to. But when I have seen him in the game try to make reads, he does not look like he does it very well. He looks like he gets confused very easy. So no, the answer is not put in Mason Garcia. If you want to have a package for Mason Garcia, okay. But put Mason in over Holton, that's a surefire way to guarantee a loss Saturday night.
Yeah, and part of the reason you're not seeing a package is because of the 4-game rule.
Correct.
And I guess at this point Mason played against Campbell, and did he? I think that was it. Or did he play an older? Did he play a little in Old Dominion? I think he's played in one game and not two.
One game.
But I think he still has three to use. But I'd have to double check that. But
that's correct.
So something else to keep an eye on: Memphis. They're +9 in the turnover battle. They forced 13 and only committed 4. And I mentioned earlier that Seth Hennigan's only thrown 1 pick, and that means obviously they fumbled 3 times or lost 3 fumbles. I think they fumbled 8 times, but only lost 3. So maybe they'll put the ball on the ground some this week and actually lose it since they've been able to recover over half of the ones they've put on the ground thus far. But that's another area to keep an eye on because and just obviously they do a tremendous job of forcing turnovers, specifically intercepting a lot of passes. They've picked off 9 passes, and Quindale Johnson leads them. He's their redshirt senior safety. He has 3 picks, and then they're led in tackles by Zay Cullens with 47, and he also has 2 interceptions.
Yeah, so you look at a lot of these things, and I keep going back. Again, when you say that, Bubba, I keep going back. Why are we 5-point favorites?
That's a good question. I mean, they're, by the way, guys, as far as the turnover ratio, they're +9 right now. So I
Yeah,
heard
Bubba
today.
just
So
said that.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
But yeah, they force a lot of turnovers, and it's like I say, there's so many things that you look at, and I really believe we're going to win this game, but I just keep wondering why we're 5-point favorites. I'd really would like to talk to somebody who really is a good odds maker in Vegas and talk to him about this game. Can we get anybody on?
Sure.
And something else, statistically, Memphis, their defense has only generated 8 sacks, which is a pretty low number for halfway through the season.
Ooh.
And then meanwhile, the opposition has sacked Seth Hennigan 19 times. So, and we're coming off a game in which we sacked Michael Pratt 5 times. So hopefully we can get that same type of pressure and maybe even more pressure on Hennigan. And Hennigan, like I mentioned earlier, does have good legs and can make you pay with his feet if you're not under control when you rush him. But hopefully the Pirates will be able to get similar pressure as other Memphis opponents have.
Yes, I think we'll be able to. They really haven't faced a lot of good defenses. Navy's a good defense. Navy's defense has gotten better since that game. Houston's defense is mediocre. But besides that, they haven't faced a lot of good defenses, maybe Ole Miss. But they have a lot of points to Texas State, to North Texas and Arkansas State. That's another thing I mentioned before about the crowd can make a difference. We need to be loud as we're trying to get pressure on that kid. This is a game that I think the fans could really motivate the defense, get that quarterback's head, and help the defense get him on the ground some.
Absolutely. And, Chuck on YouTube is asking about Josiah Hatfield. Josiah, going back to the, Campbell game, he had to miss NC State and then Old Dominion because of suspension. We got the ball in his hands a few times against Campbell without a whole lot of production on end arounds and reverses. But I think maybe he, as has often been the case, was battling some injuries right after that. And then he was back against Tulane in a limited role. And I was going back and checking the play count via hoist of colors. And I think Josiah Hatfield, he played 3 snaps offensively in that game down in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to me to see if Jalen Johnson can't go again. I don't see us doing 2 tight end thing the whole game again. Will we play somebody else more in the slot? Will we put King out wide and put CJ back in the slot? Will we do some of both? I think it's probably the answer, but we can't. I do think again that 2 tight end set can have success against Memphis, but we can't do that all game.
We had a question at the very beginning of the show that I wanted to circle back to. So why no tempo offense from the Pirates? And that's something we've discussed. Obviously, skill-wise, we don't play a lot of guys at receiver, so that could potentially have something to do with it. I would say the biggest thing is probably just, philosophy more so. But I would say the personnel probably plays a role. But that's something when we used it at the end of the half against South Florida. It was successful, and obviously the situation in the game dictated it. But Houston was very successful with their up-tempo offense against Memphis late in that game, and I'd like to see us use it as a change-up, just for a possession or 2 at least, and then, hey, if you have success with it, then use it some more. But why not use some tempo and keep them in more basic looks and, give the ball to Keaton Mitchell in a variety of ways in a very quick amount of time, and maybe he busts one.
I agree with you.
Or you hand it to Keaton one time and he hits a big one, or at least a solid gain, and then you come back a couple plays later when you're going tempo, fake it to him and hit him over the top.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to see us go tempo. I think the offense in recent weeks, except for the South Florida game, instead of up tempo, could be called forward tempo.
Well, as far as our tempo is
let me tell you something. If anybody remembers the four tempos from that, but Dave got it. That's the biggest pieces of crap ever made.
Yeah, I didn't get the reference.
I haven't thought about that car in years. Oh my God, Kyle! I was trying to forget that.
Yeah, I didn't get the reference, but while we're on that topic of tempo, that's something that I know. Stephen Igo with Hoist the Colors had referenced the statistic there, just as far as we were one of the slowest offenses nationally, and that's something that I think that in spots it's not something we're going to do consistently, obviously, but I wish we would use it here and there because I think it would be advantageous.
Well, yeah, no doubt, and especially when you play these teams I think it's a really good point. You play these teams that have a lot of pre-snap movement. They're trying to disguise everything. You can combat that with up-tempo. You start to dictate the pace. And I'm a big fan of it, just playing against it. It can really cause a lot of chaos in your defense, especially if you use it as a changeup, like you were saying, Bubba. It's almost like a pitcher in baseball, breaking ball, and then you come back with, your fastball and you freeze batters. And it's very similar in football when you use it as a changeup. And I don't think it's something we do quite enough, especially when you're struggling on offense. If you have 2 or 3 straight series where, you're not really moving the ball, maybe you're 3 and out, that's a great time to come back with up tempo and try to change up the game a little bit. And I am a huge fan of up tempo football, and I would love to see it more, and I don't understand why we don't play more receivers. That's another question I have. We have depth at receiver. It just, just some of these things, confuse me.
And it's hurting us right now. The fact that we hadn't played King more or somebody more right now, and clearly they don't think anybody's ready, or they didn't this past week, to replace Jalen Johnson, and so that's the problem. And that cannot be the case going forward. You got to put somebody out there. And I think King, as a freshman, when he's seen the field, has shown some ability.
He's been catching balls.
Yeah.
It certainly shows you, how desperate we were as far as using the transfer portal to get Zay Winstead, and then Jalen Johnson, obviously Jarrett Garner as well, who we've only seen a handful of plays thus far. But, man,
yeah, I don't even want to think about it, Bubba.
Yeah, so glad that we got Winstead and Johnson from the portal. But I know Houston's tight end, Trahan, had a pretty solid game. I think something like 5 catches for 75 yards against Memphis. Last year, Ryan Jones had a solid game against the Tigers. So it would not surprise me to see Jones and Calhoun have another solid outing this week as well. They had 7 or 8 catches against Tulane at least, and then the previous week down in Boca Raton had 11 or 12 catches against the Bulls.
Yeah, I challenge Ryan Jones to have his biggest game as a Pirate this week. I challenge him personally. Ryan used to be part of the Sports Objective. I don't know if you still watch us, but I'm challenging you personally. Kyle from LaGrange, it doesn't really mean a damn nothing to you, I'm sure. But I'm challenging you personally to have your best game
to us, Kyle.
Do what?
It means a lot to us, Kyle from LaGrange.
Well, I'm just telling you, Ryan, I'm challenging you as a man to have your best game as a Pirate this week. I believe you can do it. I believe you can go catch 5 damn touchdown passes against Memphis this weekend.
Hello.
Some other notes about the special teams battle. We talked about Memphis obviously having an extreme advantage in the PAT field goal department. Chris Howard, 11 for 11, but also their punter Joe Doyle on 27 punts. He's averaging, get this, guys, 48.6 yards per punt. And obviously, the last couple weeks, Luke Larson has been much better. I think he averaged 42.5 or 43 against Tulane. But the Tigers will have the edge in the punting battle as well, averaging nearly 49 yards per punt. And he has a long of 64. And
well,
then
I hope we see him a lot.
Yeah, let's hope we see him a lot. And then also one of their weaknesses in special teams, our kick coverage has been pretty good. And then Memphis's kick coverage, that's something that Ryan Silverfield expressed a concern with. Opponents, I don't think they've returned any for touchdowns, but opponents are averaging about 26.5 yards per kickoff return. They do have, out of their 40 kickoffs, 15 have been touchbacks. But on those 25 that they've had to tackle someone, they've struggled, and so that's something. Obviously, I don't expect to see Keaton back there. We shall see. Last week we saw Marlon Gunn, but now Marlon will be coming off the quad injury, hopefully, and be able to see significant action at running back. So it'll be interesting to see if we see Josiah Hatfield or. I know C.J. Johnson's been back there. It'll be interesting to see who's returning kickoffs this week.
Yeah, good point. You would think Gunn, with a quad injury, you would see him returning kicks. It's a good question. I will say this: you don't want to get Keaton banged up anymore. But if they're susceptible to giving up big plays in the kick return game, you might want to put him back there a couple times.
I like to see Malik Fleming back there. The way it's much easier to catch a kickoff, obviously, than it is to catch a punt. So yep. with his ability and what we saw him nearly taking one to the house down against South Florida, I would like to see Malik Fleming get a couple or a few open field touches back there.
And you may very well see that this week.
I'll tell you guys, Hatfield's a guy that tremendous talent, a lot of speed. He's never really been able to get on track here for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, personal things. It's a shame. I mean, he's done absolutely nothing this year. Nothing.
This is senior.
It's time for him. It's time for Hatfield. It's really now or never, in my opinion. It's time to step up, and we need his speed on the field. And it's been. I would just say of everybody on the team in terms of disappointing seasons, this has been obviously a terrible season for him.
Do you challenge him to have 5 touchdowns this week, Matt?
I'm issuing a challenge. No, I'm just kidding. But it's time. It's time to step up. We're 6 games into the season, and there haven't been any big plays out of him, or really any plays at all. So hopefully we see something this weekend.
Yeah, that's no doubt about it, because he actually is one that I put up there responding to Thick Poppy that on YouTube. The very fact of, to me, Hatfield is the extra. Thick Poppy, yeah.
Thick Poppy.
He wasn't talking about you, Kyle.
Are you sure?
No, you're Big Poppy. But anyway, so okay. Hatfield, what?
Is that okay?
Hatfield, guys, to me is the X factor. I think he has. Matt, you're exactly right. I really was hoping to see going into the season. He's one with his speed. I thought we'd see a little bit more. I know with the academic troubles, with the banging, the
banging.
The nagging, no, I used the wrong one. The nagging injuries that he's had so far. But you're exactly right. Now is the time to do it, because we're in the second half of the season. He's the kind of guy that can make a huge difference. And all of a sudden, you're talking about speed.
I haven't seen him do anything.
What?
I haven't seen him do anything. I'm not sure he can make any kind of difference.
He has the potential this year to have a breakout year, even in the second half.
Well, prove it. Prove it, Hatfield. If you get the opportunity this Saturday, prove you can do something, because I haven't seen him do anything.
I agree. It's time to put up or shut up, guys. That's the way I feel about, when I look at this team right now. It's time to win, and that's really what it comes down to.
No doubt. I think this is as close to a must win as you can possibly have. I hate saying must wins, but to me, this is pretty damn close to it.
Yeah, you look at it, taking a look rather at the big picture as far as the league standings. You have Cincinnati at 5-1, 2-0, Tulane 5-1, 2-0, UCF 4-1, 1-0. They have Temple this week, so and that game's in Orlando, and obviously no matter where it is, you certainly expect UCF to get to 5-1, 2-0, with them coming to Greenville next week. So these next two, if you're able to pick up a couple of huge wins at home, get to 5-3, and back above 500 in the conference, head to BYU. You have a lot of momentum, and we can certainly beat BYU. And what a nice out of conference win that would be, to have the chance to get to bowl eligibility.
And look at it from this perspective too, guys. If you're able to win this game against Memphis this week, how well does that, to your point, how well does that set you up for next Saturday against UCF in Greenville? But if you drop this game at home, like you said, from a momentum perspective, how bad is that going to hurt your crowd and have a negative impact? So it is just, for all these reasons we've talked about, a massive game, and we just got to get it done.
And that very fact of why not play this, like I was saying, it's pretty much. I mentioned this in the playback, guys, and I know Kyle, we were talking about it, but pretty much every game now is like a playoff game. It is no doubt about it. It is literally, in every sense of the word, a bowl game. If you look at Memphis, UCF, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati. I mean, the only game that maybe you could see a letdown type of game where would be rough would be at Temple.
No. That game we could be playing in that game to get into a bowl. So we better not be letting anything down in that game.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that's one. My point is every single one of the games are going to be tight games. Can go either way. And the Temple game is one that we should win handily, but the rest of them, there's no give me game. So when I see comments about, the reason I'm bringing that up is when I see comments about, you look at Tulane, again, I don't know what's up with our fan base thinking Tulane is like nothing when the reality is.
What comment are you referring to?
We had a gentleman earlier that said that it was only 8,000 people, I think. And we could, in other words, we couldn't beat Tulane. And there's only, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, sometimes that's a tougher environment to play in. A quiet stadium, Mac can attest to this, I'm sure, from some of the Conference USA venues back in the day. Cincinnati, for example, back in the day, back when fans didn't show up at Nippert. Sometimes an empty stadium's a tough atmosphere, and I agree, 8,000 people is a piss-poor crowd and a piss-poor atmosphere, particularly for a football team as quality as Tulane is. But that has nothing to do with how good Tulane is. It's embarrassing. I would be embarrassed if I was Tulane that I had that good of a football team and only 8,000 fans show up. But that has nothing to do with how quality of a football program they are this year.
Yeah, I wish they had the opportunity to play LSU, because they may certainly have the best team in Louisiana.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, but don't, just because the names is Tulane doesn't mean that they're a bad football team and we didn't play well against them and all that, and we played down to them. No, Tulane is a good football program, and I think when you look at the rest of the way, guys, my point being, every single team we're going to be playing except for Temple. So 5 out of 6 teams are good teams. So
yeah, and Temple's got a good defense, and that's going to be Thanksgiving weekend, and it's going to be cold probably, or Nowitzki City in Philadelphia on Thanksgiving weekend. So, I wouldn't even say that's an easy one either. I don't think there's an easy game on the rest of the schedule. I think every game from here on out, it's a tough ball game. And what we got to do is make sure when they see East Carolina coming up on the schedule, they're saying the same thing. It's going to be a tough ball game.
Yeah, the games that are taking place this week, I referenced that Temple at UCF on the night's a 23-point favorite. The over/under is just 46 in that one because they're obviously expecting UCF to score the majority of the points. With, like Kyle said, Temple's offense has had its struggles for sure. But then you have Navy. Navy's coming off a thrashing of Tulsa, where they rolled up, I think, over 450 rushing yards, and they are traveling to Dallas. And this line surprises me a bit. SMU minus 13. I think I would take the plus 13 all day long in that one. We shall see. That's at 7:30 on Friday night, and obviously the two games on Saturday, and the Pirates taking on Memphis, and then Tulane, a 12-point favorite in Tampa against South Florida at 4:00.
That's the only American games this week.
Yep, those four games.
Wow, very quiet slate of games in the conference this week. A lot of teams with the week off, but obviously, once you get in conference play, there's fewer games anyway because you're playing each other. But still, seems like 4 games is a very, very light conference slate.
I don't know. Andy Evans chimes in on YouTube saying we're ranked 118th in the country. Memphis is 660th. I don't know what you're looking at. I'm guessing just because of who our wins have come against.
Well, where are you getting that from, Andy?
Yeah, where's that coming from? Because
I've never seen that.
We're certainly not nowhere near that as far as the quality of our football team. Now, are there things that we need to have answered pretty quick and addressed? Absolutely. But I would say, much more.
Well, I would tell you this, Andy. Vegas
middle of the pack.
Yeah, like 60th.
Like 50s, 60s.
Yeah. Vegas, wherever you're seeing that, Vegas doesn't take too much into it because we're 5-point favorites this week. So Vegas thinks
if we
whatever is complete garbage.
And I know you can find all. I don't know if you're looking at the RPI somewhere, or what ranking.
Yeah, but who did the rankings? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I don't.
CBS,
I'm trying to find out which specific ranking this is, but I don't.
It's probably that bullshit CBS ranking.
Okay, he says no, he's wrong, that we're 79th, but.
Okay, well, great. We're 79th, they're 60th. Who gives a crap? Vegas says we're 5-point favorites.
Exactly. Who cares?
I mean, it's what does it matter? I mean, what does that matter? We're 79th and they're 60th. I mean, who cares? I mean, y'all remember the Harmon forecast? Harmon forecast used to be one of the few things that I held that I gave any validity to, and it went away. I don't know why it went away. I wish that still existed.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I do know that all that matters is wins and losses. And so we win that game on Saturday night about 11 o'clock or so. We're going to be that. And again, going back to what we're talking about,
we might be up to, if we beat Memphis, we might be up to 69.
I mean, exactly. At what point, we were, and Andy, under Mo, we were 130th out of 130th. So, I mean, that's the one that we're way better than the Mo days.
If we're the 79th, look, maybe we've played like the 79th best team in the country at times this year. But if we're the 79th best team in the country, I'll kiss your ass. And I don't kiss too many people's asses. If there's 78 football teams better than us, come give me a break.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about that at all. All I care about is winning this game. And again, we need people there. I want the place rocking. I want the place really loud. A whole bunch of alcohol. Matt Simmons is going to be there, so drink a lot of alcohol. I'm sure he won't mind that.
I don't mean to cut you off there, but I have, maybe somebody in there that's our sexy uniforms. I haven't seen one comment from one fan on our shows or hardly on Facebook that thinks we can win this football game. It is amazing to me that nobody thinks we can win this football game except the people out in Vegas. So maybe this week we are the Las Vegas Pirates because they're the only ones that have any confidence in us. So I love those uniforms, guys. By the way, I would use those as our permanent uniforms, and I think they would go well with our normal skull and crossbone purple helmet. I'd like to see that. I hope we do that at some point this year. Wear those uniforms with our normal purple skull and crossbone helmet. I think that would look good too.
Yeah, I am really psyched up for that. And you're right, Kyle. Our fan base, I'm sorry, but you need to have swagger. You need to believe in this team. We're not in the old days in the last few years. We finally have a lot of talent. And putting together, maybe you can argue we've underachieved, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is we can win this game. We have a lot to cheer for. Yeah. Get your tickets, 1-800-DIAL-ECU, or go to ecpirates.com. Be there.
Criticism, be critical, don't be negative. Be critical of the performance against Tulane. Don't be negative about the game coming up against Memphis, because we have the ability to beat this Memphis team. We have talent, and I believe in the coaching staff to turn this thing around. It's not like we don't have the talent. You can't fix talent issues. If the talent ain't there, there's nothing you can do about it. Also, if the coaching ain't there, ain't nothing you can do about it. But I believe we have talent, and I believe most of this coaching staff can coach. So I think we can fix our problems, and I think we can beat Memphis this week. Now, if we come out and lay an egg, play like crap against Memphis, I'll be the first to say I was wrong and be really concerned about the rest of the season. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we play well this Saturday night in Greenville.
Let's get it done. And hey, we there's nothing we can do about the first half of the season. All we have is the second half. And like we said, the next few weeks, man, the rest of October, if you could go 2-1, 3-0, oh my goodness, So you could be bowl. Hey, think about this, guys. Let's be positive. We still have a chance to be bowl eligible by Halloween. How about that? So possibility. It's doubtful, but it's a possibility. But hey, I believe in this program. You got a guy like Matt Simmons on our show. Let's have the swagger of the 90s. How about the swagger of the 90s? We did more with less. We had a great coaching staff, great players like Simmons, and we won a lot of games we shouldn't have, and we won. And that's the thing is, we can win these games. Let's do it. Come on. Have some swagger. Have some attitude. I miss that about this fan base. I miss it.
Our fan base is becoming a bunch of little whiny babies. I mean, I've never seen – we've had people complain about 7:30 kickoffs. 7:30 kickoffs on national television. It's going to be too late for the out-of-town crowds. We're going to be getting home at 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll get a hotel for an extra night. My God. It's a 7:30 kickoff the next 2 weeks on primetime television, and people bitch about that. Put your pacifier in your damn mouth and get a hotel room.
It's a perfect example. You can never make people happy. I mean, we have these 12 o'clock kickoffs. People bitch and complain.
Yeah.
Then you always, what does it come down to? We have to play at 3:30, 4 o'clock.
3:30. Yeah, 6 o'clock is the latest. We can't do any later than that because we play at 7:30. It's too late. I mean, give me a friggin'. It's a Saturday night.
Andy said, "How about that, Kyle? We want to win. You stop whining."
I'm not whining, mother trucker. I don't whine. I make points and I bitch. I don't whine. I make points and I bitch.
Oh man, we gotta get.
Yeah, I'm the whiner. Andy, I don't know who you are, but I'll slap the shit out of you. Call me a whiner. Look, I'm dealing with cancer and a short temper. Don't tempt fate, boy.
How big a boy are you, Roy D. Mercer?
I really don't care. I don't care how big a boy he is.
Oh my God, this program.
Look, I'm in the process of beating colon cancer. I ain't got no problem beating an Andy.
Oh my God. Oh man, you think you're in control of the show, and then you're not.
No, he wants to get me fired up. I'll give him Kyle from LaGrange.
I think he's doing it. Yeah, I think he's doing it on purpose.
Oh, you're the whiner. Oh, I'm doing it on purpose too, Dave. I'm in complete control, baby.
I'm not your boy. That's what he said. Andy said, "I'm not your boy."
Yeah, I'll make you my bitch.
He said, "I'm not scared, dude."
Well, don't expect you to be scared. You shouldn't be scared. I'm a fat ass, legally blind mother trucker with cancer. Ain't nothing to be scared of.
Oh, and this is what's great about our fan base. They complain, and then they want to, and then what they want to do is infight. That they would rather infight than support the team and say, "We're going to win this week."
But at this point, Bubba's sitting there in the corner. This is why we can't have nice things. Bonesville is not going to put. Sorry, Bubba.
No, I'm just here.
Oh, so professional.
He said, look, I never claimed to be
taking it all in.
I never claimed to be a professional. I don't give a craps about what Andy's saying. I got more important things to worry about. I just love talking trash. So do what?
I think he
does. No, Andy's getting mad. No, Andy's getting mad. I can tell.
You think Andy's getting mad?
Oh, he's mad. He's mad. He's sitting there right now. He's typing just as hard as he can. He's furious. He's furious. I bet you, Andy. I don't know who you are, man. You're a pirate. I love you. But I don't give
a crap either. He's not mad.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, all right, Andy. Well, let's have a beer. Let's have a beer.
He's trying to get. I think the problem is. I'll tell you guys. I've noticed this from. He says he's not mad. He's laughing. I think the problem is the fan base is mad because they used to have Kyle from LaGrange calling in Pirate Radio the fifth quarter going, "Cecil, are you listening?" And now they're getting the kinder, gentler Kyle.
Well, you know what? When there are things to
Cecil.
Yeah, when people need to be ran out of town. When Cecil Staten and Jeff Comfort and Scotty Montgomery are the makeup of your athletic department, your administration, and it's time to be angry and get things done and run people out of town. But we ain't there right now.
Right,
we're nowhere near there. And when we get there, believe me, I'll be the most vocal about it. But I hope to God we don't get there.
No.
And if that time comes, it'll be known. I have a point. Well, thank you, Robert. I don't know what the point is, but I'll agree with you. I do have one.
Kyle, can I get a Cecil?
Cecil, are you listening? I can guarantee you he's not listening. He didn't listen when he was here. He didn't pay attention to anything.
Hey, that's the problem. He didn't listen. Exactly, Kyle. He didn't listen to a thing, and that's why we don't have Virginia Tech on our schedule because he said, "Remember, sue me."
Sue me. Yeah, he's Cecil Staten. I mean, you hate to rehash stuff that don't matter at this point, but what a complete clown who did not deserve to be.
That's the time that
will always be a classic. That will always.
What in the world?
That's Johnny Gardner.
I thought it was Johnny Gardner. We just getting random Johnny Gardner audio popping up.
Johnny.
Because of the topic of conversation that will always be a classic.
Yeah, Cecil, are you with us? Yeah, so we're just random Johnny Gardner. Johnny Gardner makes a cameo on the Sports Objective.
Johnny's the best, man. Johnny's so cool. And Robert said we're turning into a wine and cheese crowd.
Our fan base. Yeah, I agree with you, Robert. We I don't get it. I don't get the complaining about the 7:30 kickoff. It is utterly ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why you complain about a Saturday night 7:30 kickoff.
Matt was saying that too. We were under Mo. We played how many noon games because we were horrible. And now we're playing 7:30 games, which means we're competitive. We have a chance to win games.
Well, I wonder how much I wonder how much NC State complained about playing Florida State at 8 o'clock prime time last week in Raleigh.
0.
No, exactly.
0. So the best thing you could do is if you're worried about that start time, just don't come to the game. I mean,
no. Get a hotel room. They sell them.
I know that.
Get a hotel room in Greenville. Greenville sold out. Stay in Wilson, Goldsboro, Kinston.
Yep.
I mean, they'll sell you a hotel room.
All right. So
now, Dave, very quickly before we get out of here, because we need to wrap this up, but we appreciate you tuning in, Andy. And Andy asked as far as Pirate basketball, And how's the team looking? Does anyone know?
Good question.
It is the great unknown. Now, I really like what I know about Mike Schwartz and the staff he's assembled and a lot of the young pieces he's brought into this program. But this is a team that lost, somewhere between 80 and 90% of its scoring, something like that. You think about losing guys like Vance Jackson, Tristan Newton, Brandon Suggs, so much production. So I think this year it's going to we're going to take our lumps probably. We shall see, but I think we'll take our lumps. But I think the future as a whole is promising under Schwartz and staff.
And like I've said,
so where did Coach Schwartz come from? He was an assistant to Rick Barnes at Tennessee, and he was given a lot of credit for coordinating the Vols and their excellent defense.
Yeah, he's very good. He's Andy, I was there at the first practice. I really liked how, just like Dooley did too, he's a great teacher of the game. He had a lot of passion, a lot of energy on the court with the players. He doesn't, by the way, he doesn't cuss at all. He told the players that. So that's one thing he's not going to do. He doesn't see the value in that as far as making the players better.
Wow, I can disagree with him on that.
But Andy, just stay tuned. I know you're probably already subscribed on YouTube, but if you're not, go ahead and click that subscribe button because we'll have plenty of content headed your way in the coming days about Pirate basketball. We did an interview with Cy Seymour in the last week or two, so go and check that out on YouTube. But we'll have media day, so a lot of conversations with coaches and players headed your way. So stay tuned for those. But
thanks, and Kyle, I was getting you fired up, and he enjoyed the show. So thank you, Andy, very much. And I missed the fired up Kyle. Thank you, Andy, for bringing Kyle from LaGrange.
Oh yeah, it was. I was under control on fire. That was me cutting wrestling promos. But I don't. As far as basketball goes, I have no idea. Y'all can. I hope we're good. I will say this, Bubba. You mentioned about our scoring being taken away, not having. Appreciate you enjoying the show, Andy. But at least Schwartz is a defensive-minded coach, so maybe we win some low-scoring, hard-nosed, hard-hitting, defensive-style ball games.
We'll see.
Hard hitting, I like that. Bill Lambier's combat basketball. Let's bring it to Minji's Coliseum.
Exactly.
Hard hitting. That's right. Hard hitting. Hey, look, you know what? That shows you how big a basketball fan I am.
Let's wrap things up here, guys. Before we go, I want to remind fans about our great thanks to our response to the nightly programming we've had here, daily program, if you will, Bubba. Absolute empowerment. I appreciate Coach Jeff Connors a lot, the former strength and conditioning coach, the Hall of Famer. And he has that show on Monday nights. We have on Tuesday nights, as you know, right now, the Pirate Preview. Wednesday, tomorrow night, we have the Pirate Breakdown with Sutton Young and Sonny and Semenza, and that'll be great. And then on Thursday nights, of course, the Inside Slants, and that's the weekly college football preview. Friday, Bubba does a great job. He gets a Pirate. Might be a fan, it might be a student, whatever, maybe a former player. It's called A Pirate's Life for Me. On Saturday, Sights and Sounds around Dowdy-Ficklen. And of course, on Sunday nights, we have the Pirate Football Playback brought to you by L&K Custom Homes. Thanks for Kevin KK Walker for the support of the program. Appreciate him very much. And Bubba, speaking of support of the programs, we talked about Kevin Walker, L&K Custom Homes. We want to thank Kev for that. We also have Porky's Backyard Barbecue, and we also want to mention pgxgloves.com. And Kyle, I know for a PGX, you get 25% off the products, right?
25% off at checkout if you put in promo code ECU and get yourself some sexy gloves.
There you go. You'd be like Michael Jackson, just have one glove and do the moonwalk, right?
You could do that.
Andy, the Pirate Football Playback will be Sunday night around 7 or 8 o'clock, and that will be promoted on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, etc.
Love to have
you
back.
But tune in tomorrow night. I'll watch Matt Semenza and ESPN commentator Jay Sunhalter break down the week in college football, and then you can also check out Sutton Young with who's going to be on Sutton show from Memphis.
Frank Murtaugh, he joined us in the preseason. He's been in that area for 15 to 20 years at least, if not more, and so he has a good pulse on Memphis athletics and specifically Memphis football in this case. And he was going to join us tonight, and he apologized, but he said he was on his way back from Chicago. His wife just ran in the Chicago Marathon, so a neat opportunity and experience for her, and we look forward to him joining Sutton Young on Pirate Breakdown on Wednesday night.
And he does a great job. Appreciate Sutton as well. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thanks to Matt, Kyle, Bubba behind the scenes, helping us out, producing and getting the show ready and all the graphics. Thank you, Bubba. Appreciate you very, very much. All right, we'll get out of here. That's the Pirates preview, and it's every Tuesday night right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody, and go Pirates.
I'm a pirate down to my soul, and I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode, from the sidelines down to the post. Put it down like not even close, all out to the last whistle blow. From the flag with the soul and crossbones. Everybody stand up, get your hands up, let a team know that we got they back. This is our house, this is our town, our time, record 19, copy that. Everybody in the stands go bananas, scream loud, baby, don't hold back. Every foot, every yard, every first down.